Don't get no much better than this.
So, I know some people will look right past it, but Paolo Banchero is truly ridiculous. Now, when we look at the tape and actually see the way Banchero went at the Celtics team during the playoffs, it becomes clear he was out there on a mission, determined, playing like a man who knew exactly what kind of message he wanted to send, and he wasn't whispering. When you peer over the numbers, you get a baseline, 29 points per game, 8 rebounds and 4 assists, while shooting 43% from the field and an even crazier 44% from 3. Now, his true shooting percentage was 51%, so not elite. But still, those are heavy numbers for a player in his second playoff series going against one of the best defenses in the league. And right away, you can tell the numbers have some ugly spots. He's still taking some tough shots, some low percentage looks, and his free throw shooting at just 65% was definitely below average. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you have to analyze deeper, because the numbers might tell one story, but the tape can tell you something totally different. Because when you watch Paolo with the ball in his hands, you'll notice he's not just trying to score, he's drawing attention. Seriously, I'm talking about panic button type attention, like a whole team tensing up at the moment he makes a move. And right then is where you start robbing the defense, because now multiple defenders such as Drew Holiday and Derek White are scrambling to shut down the play before it even starts. But little did they know, Paolo already has something waiting for him.
Oh no, look! What a tasty dish! Banchero!
Now I want you all to look at that play again from the top. Just look at how crowded the floor is by the time Paolo gets 2 feet in the lane. This right here is what he's been dealing with since last year, and yet again this postseason, Banchero showed he can break down that exact scheme, even without having high-level shooters around the floor. Something you often see that usually holds a lot of big wings back that handle the ball a lot is that they tend to have tunnel vision. When they get downhill, they're not primarily looking to play make, so they force it. They go up in traffic and pretty much just hope for the best. But Banchero's improving. Right here, he knows with a defender draped on his back, smothering him. This isn't the time to try to go up and get a bucket. And more importantly, he already knows the entire defense is crashing anytime he gets near the rim. So this one you have to be equipped not just physically, but mentally. You have to be ready to snap out of that finishing mindset to now make the read, and with Tatum near the lane leaving KCP open, and Pritchard failing to be at a solid distance to close out effectively, here's where Paolo can locate the open man for the tray ball. As you will watch this series, you will see that defenders will try and hound him when he turned his back, as they're banking on catching him slipping in hopes of forcing a turnover before he can process what's going on. But this time, Banchero keeps his patience, uses that 6'10" height like a weapon to see right over Tatum, and the pass over the top to Anthony Black becomes quite simple. But the real difference is that Paolo doesn't just dish it and stand there. He tracks the ball through the air, crashes the glass, and connects on the putback. Now the reason the Celtics were so paranoid about Paolo getting downhill is because, well, they should be. When he locks in and decides he's going to the rim, it honestly doesn't matter who's in front of him. Right here is Kristaps Porzingis, 7'2", long arms, great timing, but it simply doesn't matter. Paolo goes right at him and hits him in the chest like you need to get in that weight room, and then calmly puts it off the glass like it's routine. And hold on, here's what makes things even more impressive. It's not like Paolo was blowing by dudes every possession or something. This time, it's Jaylen Brown, who obviously has quicker feet, but that isn't a factor. Because Banchero isn't trying to dust him, he's just trying to control the space in this situation. So with the right side cleared out, Paolo gets downhill, and when the contact comes, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't get knocked off his path. Instead, he absorbs the contact to stay centered on the gather, and then finish off the glass with that soft left hand like it's nothing. Honestly, you really don't see a lot of young players doing this often. Like really, think about it. There are barely any young stars who can straight up body defenders like this, but that's exactly what Paolo does. Once he notices that the middle of the floor is open for him to pursue, he'll put his shoulder down to initiate the contact first, and although Jaylen Brown digs in to stop the drive, and Derek White does a solid job of jamming him up, this was all just a setup for Paolo to spin off White towards the baseline, and once again, the bank is open. If we're to keep it all the way real, Banchero got wherever he wanted, whenever he wanted on the floor. It's that rare combination of height, strength, and fluidity that helps him out greatly, and simply put, most defenders just don't have enough to handle it. Those physical gifts of his weren't just a luxury for the Magic this season, they were a necessity. This team had the worst 3-point shooting percentage in the entire league, and no, I'm not exaggerating, they shot just 31% from deep. Dead last in the association. So even when the floor looks spaced out in terms of positioning from Orlando, the Celtics know that nobody is hitting shots like that, so they clog the lane and load up that paint to try and beat Banchero with bodies. For Paolo, he has to figure out a way to either make space for a look at the basket or find a guy on the perimeter to hopefully make a shot. But this time, he decides to muscle into White to knock him off, and maybe with a slight travel he got away with on this play, Paolo can now lean back away from the defense to elevate over the top for 2 points. That bully ball playstyle of his is what makes him such a difficult cover, leading to N1s where you just can't stop him. But hold on, don't think that that's the only thing he relies on when navigating inside. With Bataze setting the screen up high to relieve Paolo from that holiday special, he now has the perfect space and time to operate. With a big like Luke Cornett guarding Paolo on the switch, we all know that this is a mismatch, and if you watch a lot of basketball, you understand that certain moves a player makes on the floor is all used as a setup. So on this action here, Paolo is going to initiate the drive going towards the middle, but at this moment, we can see that Cornett is in solid positioning to cover Banchero to the rim, and Pritchard will leave deep in help coverage to close up any holes in the defense. Now when you think about what I said, some things are all a setup. And for Banchero, he simply uses attack right to get Cornett going one way, which now grants Paolo the opportunity to spin off getting closer to the basket, and although the contest is pretty solid, P5 is just too locked in. That spin move followed by elongated steps is something that Paolo can go to when his defender gets moving one way first. And for something that he should continue to implement to his game is that when he's at the free throw line area in an ISO position with a live dribble, this is where he can stay patient to allow the defender to bite on the jab step, moving them out the way slightly. And when that middle of the paint is open, it's pretty much a done deal. Now I get it, some of you are probably like, this is all so simple. And yeah, well that's the point. When dissecting the defense, you want to make things as simple as possible, such as here when Holiday is pressuring Banchero tightly. There's a gap he can attack down here on this left side, but attacking it straight on will probably lead to Jaylen Brown sliding over and Drew Holiday hounding him on the other side for a trap. So instead of just trying to plow through, Paolo uses the retreat dribble to make Holiday lunge out to him, and right when he comes out is when the gap opens up for P5 to burst right to the rim to go score. Recognition in action like that is what will lead to Paolo making his scoring much easier, and this plays into other areas of his game as well. When he receives the ball in an ideal situation where he has the perfect angle to attack, he could rush all the way inside of Porzingis, as we saw earlier with that body bump bucket, but sometimes the beauty is in the simplicity of a stop and pop pull up yumper. With Paolo being a forward, you'll see the Magic use him as a screener to open guys up, but also this grants Paolo the option to catch in space with many different options. You can see as he catches that on this backside, Wendell is calling for a lob, so that's something Banchero could choose to initiate. But with there being a slight risk factor in throwing that due to Cornett playing the middle ground, Banchero makes the right decision to opt into a pull-up from about 15 feet out. This discernment to make the best decision on the fly is a major improvement in Paolo's game this year, as he's gotten better at utilizing the screen by snaking around this time to keep Tatum on his back, and once again, we have an opportunity to lob it up to Wendell, who's cutting to the rim. Now the big is standing dead center waiting for that to probably happen, so by utilizing the step back, this not only takes him further away from Cornett, as it also gets him a tiny bit of space away from Tatum, who is riding his hip, and this small amount of daylight was all that was needed to knock it down. Being creative with that snake dribble will get you to open spots on the floor without exhausting too much energy, but hey, sometimes you need to throw in a slight combo handle when you get that ISO versus a mismatch, and this one right here, well, it's straight cash. Now I know, the mid-range has been something that is deemed a bad shot and not too many players in the league like to use it, but if you've been over here at Hoop Mastery, you know that I'll always stress about how important it is to operate in that in-between area. It's not every time that you can just bully your way inside or beat defenders to the rim, so you'll be forced to make shots from a little further out, and that's exactly when the mid-range creation comes into play, and also the confidence to rise up from deep without hesitation. On 5.4 attempts from deep over the 5-game series versus Celtics, Banchero drained 44% of his threes, just lifting this Magic team when he could, and he did so in many different ways. If the defense happened to go under the screen to then get caught on the screen once more when fighting through, well, here's where that confidence is truly displayed. Paolo made it a focal point to pull the trigger at any time the defense gave him any space to shoot, and when he was locked in, just really in that zone, here's where you get the walk down size up that ends like this.
Hesitates, now fires, and it's good. He ties the game at 22.
This year's playoffs further showcased the skill set Banchero has, and that with some capable shooters and a point guard being added to this team, him and Franz Wagner can take the Magic to great places. Me personally, I love the Bane trade, as Orlando didn't really lose too much, and the draft picks they gave up shouldn't matter as much as long as the team stays good for the foreseeing future. But hey, let me know what you think about the trade. If you want to see Paolo pick apart a different defense, consider watching his Paolo breakdown over last year's playoffs where he decoded another defense that schemed against their poor shooting. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you're first to know when I upload. I thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.